Have you ever found yourself stuck in a cycle of procrastination where you can't get anything done no matter how hard you try? It's not laziness, and it's not about poor time management either. We're going to cover two things here: the deeper hidden causes of executive dysfunction, and then the two types of tasks that are impossible to deal with: repetitive, never-ending tasks and high-stakes, outcome-driven tasks. If you've ever struggled to find motivation for either of those things or started questioning where all of this is really coming from, then you're in the right place. Hi, I'm Anna, founder of The Intrinsic North Star, where I help other ambitious individuals break free from self-sabotaging behaviors like perfectionism and procrastination. My goal is to help you reclaim your intrinsic motivation and emotional stability so you have a real foundation from which to go and pursue your goals. You're not broken for struggling with self-sabotage, with perfectionism, with procrastination, especially if you don't know where it's coming from, and most people usually don't. So if you're ready to stop fighting yourself, I'm here to help you navigate those challenges. Subscribe for more insights and a helping hand to help you when you feel more alone than ever. So part one is the root causes of executive dysfunction. When you're struggling with procrastination, it's easy to blame it on external things like, oh, I'm just really bad at organizing. But it usually goes a lot deeper than that. Often it comes down to a mix of emotional and psychological patterns that were instilled in us most likely from a very young age. So here are the most common causes and why they exist. Perfectionism is often the root of procrastination. When we believe that our worth is tied to the results that we produce, we then delay the tasks because we're scared of what happens when we can't do it perfectly. You may find yourself avoiding an entire section of your life, like home projects or chores or a work project, because it doesn't meet your standards. So then, what's the solution? Start by shifting your focus from proving your worth from a perfect outcome to practicing self-trust through consistent action. One practical way to do this is what I call the minimum viable effort approach. Instead of aiming to complete the entire project at once and perfectly, you define what a bare minimum, low-pressure version of success looks like for today. That might mean writing a messy paragraph instead of the entire page, cleaning one surface well instead of the whole room just being done, or outlining your project without the need to have every detail figured out. I understand how important your standards are. I have very high expectations for myself, and all ambitious individuals do. The goal isn't to lower your standards forever. It's to lower the barrier of entry so you can begin. Another cause is fear. Fear of failing or fear of being criticized, and this is rooted at a very deep age, whether it's from parental or guardian figures, school, academic pressure, or society at large. This fear can paralyze us, making us so scared of how others perceive us so that we don't do anything at all. Failure is a part of the process. I have to have this conversation with myself often. If I never start, am I guaranteeing that I won't fail? Yes. I'm also guaranteeing that I won't succeed. I'm not giving myself the chance. Every failure is an opportunity to learn and grow. You fail forward. Next is overthinking, and I did a whole video about this, so I'd really appreciate it if you actually went and checked that out on my channel. But the reality is, overthinking is a big problem for all of us. We tend to analyze every scenario, every possibility, overanalyzing everything so that we're fully prepared when we walk into a situation. But that leads to an analysis paralysis where we can't even take action. It's exhausting and keeps us stuck in a loop of indecision. The way to break free is to embrace imperfection and just start. I know you're sick of hearing this advice, but the truth is, taking messy, scrappy action will always move you further than staying still in fear. Perfectionism ties into all of this because it convinces us that we need the right conditions, the right plan, the right information to be able to do anything. But waiting for clarity before taking action is like waiting for confidence before getting good at something. It's usually flip-flopped. It goes the other way around. The clarity comes after action. The confidence comes after practice. So instead of aiming for flawless execution, aim for momentum. This looks like giving yourself 10 minutes to make a dent in the task versus committing an afternoon to it that never actually happens. Or writing the first terrible draft, expecting it to be terrible, so there aren't any expectations on it actually being perfect, or you having all the information so that you do it the perfect way. Doing one corner of the room, one corner of the project, one paragraph of the email, knowing you can always go back and refine it later. Do you think that authors refine every single sentence as they go? I actually love writing, and that's a big habit that I had to break because I was so paralyzed for wanting my writing to be perfect that I could never actually move on throughout the story. But I had to get over that. I had to write knowing that first draft was gonna be awful. And then you know what I had after that? A 600-page book that was capable of being edited and published. And my story was told even though it was imperfect the first time. We're building evidence that progress is possible without perfection. And when you prove that to yourself, you're proving that you're capable of following through even if the voice in your head is telling you you can't. Next is the infamous harsh inner critic and self-doubt. This devil on our shoulder makes it impossible to feel confident about our decisions when the whole goal here is to build confidence even at a small rate. So do me a favor here. Recognize that that inner critic isn't actually you. It's a protective voice that likely developed in past environments where you didn't feel safe. Places where criticism and fear of failure kept you secure and gave you a sense of control. But what protected you then is now sabotaging your ability to move forward even though now you're in a different environment. The path forward begins with self-compassion. Not in a fluffy way, in a deep way that's gonna hurt, but heal you later on. It sounds like, of course, this is hard. This makes sense. It's okay to not have this all figured out right now. I can see in the past that I've gained clarity every time I've made a decision and moved forward, even though it didn't happen all at once. So logically, I will gain clarity for this decision I'm making now, even if it doesn't happen right away. I'm allowed to show up messy and still make progress. Instead of trying to silence the inner critic by force, just combat it with an inner compassionate monologue. A voice that sees your effort, sees your growth, sees your courage. You need to be talking to yourself like it's the little kid version of yourself. The kid that hasn't adapted these coping mechanisms and still believes that when they put out their voice into the world, it's gonna be heard. Every time you respond to doubt with kindness, you're teaching yourself a new pattern. That safety isn't found in perfectionism and punishment. It's found in presence, patience, and permission to not be perfect. So next is all or nothing thinking, which is the vice that got me started in all of this in the first place. It's the only thing I had words for at first. It's adjacent to perfectionism because yes, a piece of it is saying if I can't do this perfectly, I won't do it at all. Perfectionism is driven by the impulse to meet impossibly high standards. It's not just about wanting to do well, it's fearing something on the other side of not doing well. All or nothing thinking is distortion. It's a filter that only lets you see things in black and white. And it leads to extremes. You're either fully on, fully disciplined, committed to something, or you're turned off and you can't even get out of bed. You must learn to embrace progress over perfection, which is not a switch you can flip, but it's something you need to start being aware of. It's learning to switch from prioritizing the big picture of I cleaned my entire house to I did quality cleaning work today, even if it's 10 minutes of cleaning the kitchen. If you're liking this video so far and want to dig deeper into these strategies, then don't forget to subscribe. I've also created a free resource that helps you dig into these things and create habits that stick. You can download it by clicking the link in the description or just commenting guide and I'll comment it right back to you. So that was the educational piece in terms of root causes and then a bit of a starting ground on where to go from there. Now we're going to dive into the two types of tasks in daily life that tend to trigger executive dysfunction no matter which root cause it's coming from. Repetitive tasks with no end point and high stakes outcome driven tasks like work projects. So if you've ever found yourself avoiding cleaning, doing the laundry, doing the dishes because it feels repetitive, you're not alone. There's no meaningful next step or final outcome. You're not doing it to feel good. You're doing it because you need clean dishes. You need clean laundry. It's just the same repetitive actions that never end. So how do you find motivation for that? One of the first things I want you to do is reframe your thinking around doing these types of tasks. You're gonna reframe the task as a part of identity building. Instead of thinking, I have to clean, start thinking, I get to clean because I'm taking care of my space and I'm doing an act of service for myself by giving myself comfort, ease, and a clean home. You're not just cleaning, you're taking care of your future self. And I want to make something clear. This isn't a kind of conversation you can have in bed while you're procrastinating. You have to get yourself into motion for something like this to actually take effect. So instead of I'm gonna go clean the kitchen, it's let me go walk into the kitchen. Super low barrier to entry to get you into motion. And then once you're already up and going, you can have this conversation with yourself and say, okay, I'm not forced to clean. This is an extension of my identity, and this is why I'm doing it. Another strategy is breaking down the task into smaller, manageable pieces of the bigger task. It's not, I have to clean the entire kitchen. It's, I need to clean the microwave. Okay, well, if that's all the energy you had for the day, you did the thing. That task is complete. It's a smaller task in the overarching, I'm going to clean the kitchen, but it's accessible right now, no matter what your energy is. If it's the same day and you still have energy and you're on a roll, then yeah, move into cleaning the stove, move into cleaning the sink, move into filling the dishwasher, and before you know it, the kitchen's clean. And also, you need to celebrate those wins. You need to actually say, no, the priority is not being able to clean the whole kitchen. Just like the beginning, the goal is to build small pieces of trust in my ability to move forward, in my ability to follow through with the things I say that I'm gonna do. Even if it's just, I'm gonna wipe down the counter. That's it. You also need to be mindful of the process itself. Notice how it feels when the space is clean, when the counters are smooth, when the floor is tidy. Notice the satisfaction of a job well done, even if it's small by your old standards. These are acts of self-care, not chores. On the other side, we have tasks that are stakes-driven. They're deadline-driven. You're dealing with projects that have good things at the end of them. It's really hard to find joy in the process. You are literally doing the thing for the outcome. So instead of feeling overwhelmed by the end goal, ask yourself this: what is good about this moment? What progress can I make next, right now? Focus on what is right in front of you this very second. And also, just like with the other task, celebrate the small wins. Take time to appreciate the progress you've made. You're telling yourself, I recognize the work that you've already done. So now later, when you get bogged down in the stress and the procrastination and the overwhelm, you can look back and say, I did follow through on that, and I moved forward. I can follow through on this too. See, what we're used to happening is we make progress, we have wins, and then we blow right over them and move on to the next thing. And then when it gets hard again, we don't have any confidence to fall back on. So take the moment to recognize the wins. Start to build that confidence so that when it gets hard again, you have a cheerleader in the back of your head saying, no, you actually did that thing. You can do this too. So the biggest shift here, as always, is learning to value the process over the outcome. Yes, the results matter, but only if you're still intact when you get there. Every step you take, even if it's imperfect, gets you closer to where you want to be. Not toward whatever outcome it is that's been forced on you by work or the chores that have to get done, but it gets you closer to the kind of person you want to be, the identity that you're building when you show up every day, even when you don't want to. So the key here is understanding what these root causes are. Whether it's dealing with repetitive tasks or high-stakes projects, the solutions lie in practical shifts you can make to reconnect with the process and who you are becoming every time you show up. Remember, progress over perfection is the goal. And by focusing on what's good right now and where you can go from here, celebrating the small steps along the way, and reframing all of this as self-care for the real you, you can overcome this overwhelm. Stop viewing the big bad as something you're never going to overcome, and start making meaningful steps forward again, even if they're steps you never would have considered steps before watching this video. Look, I know how lonely this road can be, so I'm honored that you're here with me today. If you want to find community with others who know exactly what you're going through, who are also committed to improving and not letting it hold them back anymore, then please feel free to join our Facebook community that's linked in the description below. We go deep into these topics, share support, and hold each other accountable. And as always, stay in this corner of the internet as long as you need. I'm always in your corner.